childhood trauma, it's so, unfortunately, it happens to 80% of people. 50%, at least in America, of families are divorced children. And just a divorce is enough to start to create those feelings of insecurity and unlovability. And when you're young, you don't have your prefrontal cortex yet. So anything that happens around you, if there's not an adult to explain and work through that pain, it's your fault and you internalize it. Hello, I'm Holly McNeill, and welcome to another episode of Pay Attention, where we're learning to pay attention to the hidden influences in our body and mind from moment to moment so that we can create our lives with purpose. And today I'm really excited to bring my guest on because she lives in another part of the world, in a land far, far away. And, she like me, from a low point or from a challenging point, really searched and searched different modalities, looked into suffering, from PTSD and looking into the different modalities. I'm going to read a few of them here. There's so many. The Silva Method for mind control, tarot cards, Reiki, counseling, CBT, hypnotherapy. And like me, really searching for truth. And what I love about this guest is that we both spoke at a conference in Barcelona, a women's empowerment conference in Barcelona last March, and our talks were so similar. We came up with a lot of the same information because there are only a few simple truths. So welcome, Barb Varcl Smith from the UK. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you for having me, Holly. Very nice to meet you again.
Yes. You're in northern Scotland?
Yeah, I'm in northern Scotland, near the North Sea.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your journey, kind of where you started and how you got to be doing what you are today, and how you're sharing your message with the world. So just, give us the elevator pitch, or the down and dirty.
Yeah, so I started when I was actually little, and I grew up in Czechoslovakia under communism regime, and I grew up in the family of dissidents. So we quite suffer in many ways because of that. But also, my mom had a very severe accident when I was 4 years old, and that's of course influenced our life severely. And a lot of times she was in hospital or was disabled in many ways then afterwards. So it was very challenging childhood, plus some family members which we would probably call lately narcissistic and stuff like that. So I ended up, when I was 17, diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, with ME, when after many years of different illnesses, my body just gave up. And I started searching solutions because doctors just told me that they don't know anything what to do with that. In that time, was very new diagnosis, but even that, they have quite convinced that it's very likely psychosomatic, that it's linked to enormous amount of stress and amount of trauma. So I started searching, and I was very lucky because one of the first things which I found was training of Silva Method of control mind, and really start learning about connection between mind and body. I was able to get myself from that state of chronic fatigue syndrome, and that really opened my mind and my world to so many new things, and understanding of that our physical beings we are, but we are so much influenced with what happened to us as children mainly. So I started studying all what was able to find: NLP, hypnotherapy, regression, working with energies, learning about influencing of the plants and so on. So I really try to search everything: what is working, what's not working, why it's working, and start seeing changes in people which I work with or help them, and started seeing the common patterns in in their behaviors and recognize where it's actually coming from. And then when we start looking at different symptoms of and maybe different labels, we can still very much narrow it to sources of behaviors in childhood and how it's influencing development of our inner setting and our belief systems and how we're acting. Yeah, no, so now I'm helping people to recover from it and be actually present and be actually current adults, not little children living in the adult body.
That's right. I teach people how to stay in the present moment because that's where the peace is and the calm is. All of that trauma is in the back. So is this kind of self-taught? Did you have any formal training, or is it just really kind of just piece by piece putting this all together?
No, I had also formal training of examples in Czech Republic was the one system, a principle of life, which is 5 years long training for working with that. I went to certification on NLP master, Reiki master, regression therapy, one brain accumulator, family constellations, so I was always searching in the way that I try something on myself and then I went to learn it, how to do it for others if I found it useful. So, and latest was rapid transformation therapy. Yeah, so in UK, the counseling, bereavement counseling, because I think that it's really important to understand how it's working. And for people who start searching how to do things, I kind of narrow it and digest it and start teaching myself, others to taking that what is really important about trauma and how to understand it, how to recognize it, and how to help people what's need to happen to recover.
And that's it, right? I mean, you and I are from, like I said, different continents, and I've certainly been in the UK, and in the UK especially, keep calm and carry on. It's not something that that you really look at a lot over there. So the beautiful part of you being here, being at the conference, is that for you and I, it took a long time to go through all of these things and to really understand it. And so I imagine your goal is to help people not have to take so long. Like, so you're able to summarize what you've learned. And it's really about, the body really that holding that trauma in, right? And so what do you say to someone, if they're just starting out, so that they don't have to take, and for me it was 20 years, and for you it looks like it was 30 years to kind of work all through this. What's the first steps for someone?
I think that first there are 4 stages of recovery from trauma. Yeah, recognition, release, regret, and rediscovery. So the first step is really recognition. Start recognizing that trauma actually happened. And we have the amazing capability as a human, which we call inhabitation, or easy to understand, normalize, saying that what happened to us was normal, that this is how it is, this is how life is. And when we start actually looking back on what's happened to us, we start realizing that be shouted, be beaten up, be kept hungry, not have attention, or be super control, or not have any support, watching parents get drunk, or be ill, or bereavement in childhood, all these wide range of things, divorce, moving, fathers distance, single moms, single fathers, all these causing issues. Then we start recognizing that actually did happen to us trauma. And very important thing is that people often have feeling that, oh, my childhood was quite happy. But when we start looking at that, they would realize, no, actually it wasn't. Yeah. And sometimes people don't want to admit it because they know that their parents meant well, they tried their best. And it's very important to understand that recognizing of what happened to us doesn't mean that it's a blame game. It's not about that. It's not about finding who did it to me. It's about finding what happened to me, how I react to it, and how I start reacting from it further. And from that, we can move into the release and
Right,
look
moving to the present
further.
moment and forward. Yeah, it's about knowing what happened to you and recognizing what happened to you early on, how that's affecting your life right now. And childhood trauma, it's so unfortunately, it happens to 80% of people. 50%, at least in America, of families are divorced children, and just a divorce is enough to start to create those feelings of insecurity and unlovability. And when you're young, you don't have your prefrontal cortex yet. So anything that happens around you, if there's not an adult to explain and work through that pain, it's your fault, and you internalize it, right? And then it doesn't go away. It goes in your subconscious mind, and you're reinforcing it over the years. So you're absolutely right. Understanding that trauma and what has happened, and trauma comes in many different forms and ways, as you explained, and people, especially in the UK, you don't talk about those things. Have you found that? I mean, being from the United States and having spent some time over in the UK, and my husband is from England. Have you found that it's hard to get people to admit to look at those things?
I think that it's still, especially for people my age or older, it's still kind of taboo. It's slowly opening to it. Actually, we have quite high suicidal rate, especially between men who are not opening about their mental health issues. Of course, there's a big movement to try to improve it. A lot of companies trying to really put well-being, forefront of the care about their members, their staff and stuff like that. Because also this issue is causing enormous, actually, business losses, is it? Because the people suffering from trauma, they cannot focus, they cannot be so productive, they cannot hold the relationship, even in business. They are more often sick. They can end up on a long sick leave because of mental health issues, and so that's all have effect to the economy. So luckily, that driven now the more focus on improvement of mental health and acknowledging that people are affected in many ways, and there is no, I would say, better or worse trauma. Sometimes people said, "Oh, you didn't have it so hard." It doesn't matter. I saw many real horror stories with my clients, but there are not a judgment for people who cannot speak in public because they were so limited when they exploring who they really are and exploring their opinions when they are children by controlling parents. That's the same pain, So it's very important to not let people sometimes say, "Oh, nothing happened to me," but yeah, it did.
Yeah. It's very interesting that it took the economic part of that for people to go, wait a minute, something's happening here. But, it's necessary, right? If you, in those people getting sick, that sickness is your body telling you that you're holding all of that. And so basically we take that trauma, we build it up in our head, it just totally deluge in our body, and then we hold it there, and we grow, and we grow it, and we hit up against it, and it's painful, and we struggle and suffer. So it's lovely, to hear that people are starting to look at that over there. So you had there's four. So there's recognize. What's after recognize?
After recognize is a release. So we need to find a way how to release the trauma from the mind and body. Again, I, for example, using very effectively somatic hypnotherapy for that, which is
somatic. That's the touch, right?
No, somatic hypnotherapy is actually working in the deep trance with the body and release it. It's a technique I developed by combination of different modalities. I find it the most effective way for people which have the really severe trauma responses like panic attacks or stuff like that, because they can learn how to do it themselves and they can overcome this very quickly. So when I will go back to your original question you had asked about how quickly people can get from the trauma, and a lot of people have answer never, which is not true, or it will take decades, which is not true. I'm saying that it's take about 3 to 6 months. It's absolutely possible, and when we really start going this way, recognize, release, regret, and rediscovery, people can get from the to the present moment in just 3 months.
I love that. I love that. But you have to want to do it. All right. There's a lot of people that are so stuck, they can't even see past their trauma to know that there is something else. So for those people that are fortunate enough to question and to think this can't be right, right? You're saying that this you're right. This journey is possible for anyone, for everyone. And so you said basically it took me 20 years and you 30 years, and they can do it in 3 months, which is it. You know, if you have that intention and that strong, your will is very powerful, right? And so if you have the will to do it, you absolutely can. So you're coaching people. So you're coaching people and you're speaking, as I know. And so so you've got recognize, and then release, and then regret. Was that the third one?
Regret, yeah, regret, or we can call it trauma grieving, which not often spoke about that, but it's a kind of that moment on the journey which some people get stuck, and it's that moment when they start realizing and get to the present moment and look on the past, what happened to them, and they start realizing how much the trauma cost them, how much they lost opportunities in work, in relationship, in family, what unhealthy coping mechanisms they used, drug, eating, not eating, whatever it was. So how much actually they lost. So
right.
as every
living
loss,
in the past, living in that trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to grieve it, and we need to.
We do. That's true.
It. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and then next step it's rediscovery. That's the positive one. It's like finding who you are.
Before we get to that one, just before we get to that one, I did live in that. I mean, I even on my journey I've had just all of a sudden I burst into tears, right? I'm really learning to live in the present moment. And when I do, there's all of a sudden this recognition of all of those years that I didn't do that. I mean, certainly if you're on your path and if you want to find that healing, you're on your way, but there was a lot of suffering. And yeah, so you're absolutely right. Regret, or what do you call it? Soul grieving, I think.
Yeah, trauma grieving. Yeah,
trauma grieving. Yeah.
Grieving.
That's absolutely right. All right. So let's go to the positive part of this.
And positive is that after that, we need to find out who we are without trauma.
Rediscover.
So rediscover. Because most of people, when they get to that present moment, they kind of realize, like, I actually don't know who I am, because they reacted from
they're so used to, that's all they know, right? Rediscover. I love that. Mm-hmm.
Rediscover themselves. What is their purpose? What they even like? Many people start changing how they dress. They would change their haircut. They would change their jobs. They would change their partners sometimes, They would start finding who they really are, what they really want to do, and what are their hobbies, very often changing, and really finding who they are without all this.
Yeah. When you live in the present moment, none of that fear and anxiety is there. So there's a freedom, right? A freedom to explore and to, look beyond all of that. Look beyond. That's the last, my practice is per love, expand. It's expand beyond your conditioned limits. So have you seen that a lot in your clients? And
yeah, the changes are tremendous. Like, that's like many people like absolute change. Like, I think that probably one of the biggest changes which I saw was, for example, somebody who was bedridden because of the trauma causing through sexual trauma through childhood, led to the total like shutdown of their body. And he works through it, and she not just the get from the bed, but open the business, move to the different country, get a new partner, like totally like not. I'm just saying that you're not getting to the new chapter of your life, you're getting to the sequel. This is this was one, now it's sequel, now it's a new story you writing.
There's a whole nother part to living. That's for sure. That's for sure. And for me personally, it was more into what am I beyond my thoughts, emotions, and feelings, right? There's certainly changes you can make, new place, new husband or wife or new spouse or, new job. But there's also so much more in that awareness, that freedom to discover about this human journey that you're on. And this temporary, beautiful, glorious, journey. So wow, and what is one thing that you would, if for our listeners out there, what is one thing, one tip, or one kind of trick or something that they can think about?
I think that the one thing they can think about is that recovery is possible, and that they have the right to feel and not feel that they need help. A lot of people suppressing it and feeling that they don't deserve it. They don't deserve to be happy. Somebody else is more important. Somebody, needs are more important. But everybody needs to take care first of themselves. Same as in airplane. Just take first care of yourself, then you can take care of others. So I would tell everybody start thinking that you deserve to get better, whatever it is.
That's true. So true. So true. People deserve to get better. So I know we're here in the United States and you're over in the UK, but if people want to learn more about you or reach out, how do they get a hold of you?
The best is on my website, which is the your-steps.co.uk. Or I'm on the Facebook as Barb Varcl Smith, easy to find. And I'm working with people from all around the world. I have actually majority of my clients are from US. I'm working also with people from Australia, New Zealand, so India, everywhere.
Oh, great.
So
I love that.
That's
yes.
no problem.
Okay, great. So we will put all of that contact information in the description for the podcast here. But I love that. I love that you're working, with people around the world. And of course, online makes that possible, right?
Yeah. Right. And that is so much need. So what
are your services? Your coaching, you have classes?
So my main service, it's combination of coaching with the hypnotherapy and regression, it's my program is called trauma response reprogramming, which is 3 months program when we going through this 4 phases of recovery, and it's to do exactly for each client individually by where they are, what they need, and they will end in the be present, so get them from the trauma response. It's a very intensive program, which we working every week intensively, or I'm also doing the course, which is called Complex PTSD Blueprint, which is 9 weeks course when people can learn about how it's trauma created, what everything needs to happen, how it's physically manifesting, and many techniques they can use for themselves or for if they, for example, working with somebody. But it's really about eye-opening for people to start realizing what everything trauma is, what all symptoms of trauma are, because when people don't see the subtle symptoms or how exactly physical manifestation showing the trauma. So yeah, that's other things.
Great. Right. So you have a lot to offer, a lot of different programs. So great. So I love it. I love that it's on. I love that you and I, from so far away, have come up with some this when we gave our talks in Barcelona. It's just there's just a few truths about how your mind works, how your body keeps score. And I love that we came up with the same. So Barb is available online apparently. So reach out to her. Thank you so much, Barb, for being here today. Thank you for I know we've had to reschedule this a couple of times. So thank you for participating in the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It was
nice. Yes, of course. And thank you, listeners, for listening to another episode of Pay Attention, where what I love about it is we're proving over and over and over again that if you just start paying attention, to your past traumas, what you're building from, what your habits are, you have the power to change it. So Thank you again, and see you at another episode of Pay Attention.